We will now hear the Honourable Member for Suna East, Honourable Junet Mohammed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute to this motion, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm a member of the appointment committee that vetted the nominees, Madam Speaker, and we had taken a lot of our time to make sure that, Madam Speaker, we look into this matter in a very good perspective, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, why we were doing that is because this is the highest decision-making organ of the country, Madam Speaker, the Cabinet of the Republic of Kenya. Madam Speaker, if I may give my views on what was presented before the committee, Madam Speaker, and in accordance with the report that we have made as a committee, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Constitution is very clear. The Constitution says that this country, when appointments are made, we must look into issues of regional balance, we must look into ethnic balance, and we must look into issues that can bring cohesion in this country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if you look at this appointment of these ministers, Madam Speaker, we have a cabinet now consisting of 24 members, Madam Speaker. 24 members. And if you look at the composition of this cabinet, Madam Speaker, of these 24, the region where the president comes from, Madam Speaker, 4 ministers come from there. Including the president, there are 5 in the cabinet. The region where the deputy president comes from have 8 ministers, Madam Speaker. Including him, there are 9. If you put 9 plus 5, there are 14. And the total number is 24. All the other parts of the country has only 10 cabinet ministers, Madam Speaker, ambayo wametupiwa kama kuku na tupiwa mahindi, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is when will a Turkana be a minister in this country? When will Borana be a minister in this country, Madam Speaker? When will a Korea be a minister in this country, Madam Speaker? If every election, year in and a Pokot, year in, year out, we have the president's region having 5 ministers, the deputy president ministers having 9 ministers, out on 24 ministers, you have 14, the other part of the country are 10. Madam Speaker, if that is not unfair, what do you call unfairness, Madam Speaker? This must stop, Madam Speaker. This is unconstitutional, Madam Speaker. This is an affront to the constitution of this country, Madam Speaker. That is why the constitution speaks to the issue of regional balance, ethnic balance, and cohesion of this country, Madam Speaker. First, Madam Speaker, on that note, this appointment lacks the constitutional merit that it requires for it to govern this country, Madam Speaker. Secondly, Madam Speaker, we have vetted the members. Some of them are distinguished, outstanding members, Madam Speaker, and I agree with the committee that some of them merit to be cabinet ministers, and they have qualified and passed the standards that we were looking for as a committee. But a few of them, Madam Speaker, as we have noted in our minority report, are substandard, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when you are talking about the cabinet of the Republic of Kenya, and you want to have a cabinet minister seated there who has a live case in court, not a capital offense, Madam Speaker, of murder, Madam Speaker, how do you want this House to approve that, Madam Speaker, unless we have lost our head, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, it is very clear. It is very important for the image of this country, Madam Speaker, for that nominee to step aside, go and clear her cases in court. Once she has finished.
What is your point of order, Honorable GK of Ndia?
Who's GK?
Clerk, please give Honorable George Karaoke the microphone.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Junet, I am GK. Government, yes. And Honorable Speaker, my point of order is in regard to something he has said, that Atukana has never been a cabinet secretary in this country. We know very well we had Honorable Munez, who was a cabinet secretary. So you are misleading the House. Please, that's my point of order, Madam Speaker. Withdraw.
Honorable Junet.
I know. Madam Speaker, I agree with the Honorable GK, the government of Kenya, that he thinks this 21 or 24 we are passing now has a Turkana in the... There is no Turkana in this list that we are passing as a cabinet minister, Madam Speaker. The one you are talking about was in the previous cabinet, Mr. Honorable Member. Now we are discussing new nominees, new appointments, Madam Speaker, under the new government of Kenya, under the leadership of President William Ruto, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wanted to say that, Madam Speaker, the nominee for public service and gender, Madam Speaker, it is imperative, Madam Speaker, let us not trivialize the matter, because what the standards we are going to set in this parliament today, it is what is going to be used in the future, Madam Speaker. If we approve a nominee today who has a case in court, who has a live case in court, Madam Speaker, of murder case, a capital offense, Madam Speaker, tomorrow, anybody can be brought to this house with any kind of cases, Madam Speaker, and passed, because you will have set the standard that one time the Parliament of the Republic of Kenya passed a nominee with a murder case, Madam Speaker. And I'm not judging anyone. We cannot say she's guilty of the offense or she's not guilty of the offense. That is the courts to decide, not us, Madam Speaker. We need to let the court do their work, let the court judge her, acquit her, or convict her, Madam Speaker. Then from there, we can make a decision as a House, Madam Speaker, whether that person is fit to hold the office of a cabinet secretary, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, look at the world democracy, Madam Speaker. Look at developed countries, Madam Speaker. Look at the democracies that we borrow from, Madam Speaker. Leave alone being charged in court, Madam Speaker. When even allegation is put against you, whether they are true or false, until you clear your name, until you are told to step aside. Madam Speaker, public officers who are in office, governors who have been charged in court were barred from their offices, Madam Speaker. Public officers who were taken to court were all told to leave office, Madam Speaker. What is the moral authority we have as a House to pass today in the floor of this House, Madam Speaker, a cabinet secretary who has a case in court, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, the other nominee that was rejected unanimously by the committee is Honorable Madam Malonza. Madam Speaker, I don't want to speak like the way my colleague spoke here, whether she's a female, whether no. We were not looking at gender. Madam Speaker, we were looking at the suitability and the competence of that individual to hold that high office of a cabinet secretary, Madam Speaker. And if, in the eyes of the committee felt that the person did not stand up to the requirement of that office, Madam Speaker.
What is out of order, Honorable Makali Mulu?
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I didn't want to disturb my colleague and friend, Honorable Junet, but I think when he says that we are not looking at gender, that is unconstitutional. The Constitution demands that they must consider gender as one of the key factors when looking at these things. Thank you very much.
Honorable
Madam
Junet.
Speaker, Dr. Makali is somebody I respect highly. But Madam Speaker, the reason of our failure was not because of our gender. That's what I meant. And if that gender is not suitable for that office, Mr. Speaker, there are many qualified Kamba women, Mr. Speaker, in this country who can hold that office. She's not the only Kamba in Kenya. So, Mr. Speaker, I was just saying she was not disqualified based on her gender. Let us not bring the gender card on the table now just because she's a female lady, a female nominee who has been rejected by the committee, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, what I want to say is that Parliament is being watched by Kenyans, Madam Speaker. Parliament is being tested. This country, this Parliament has a destiny with the people of Kenya, Madam Speaker, on the approval of these nominees. Kenyans want to know whether we are a conveyor belt. Kenyans want to know whether we are a rubber stamp, Madam Speaker, for the executive. We must stand up and tell the executive they are wrong when they are wrong. There are many Kenyans who are qualified that they can bring back to this house, Madam Speaker. There are over 30 million Kenyans who can do the job of a cabinet secretary, Madam Speaker. It's not only me and you and others who have been nominated, Madam Speaker. The reason why the Constitution, Madam Speaker, gave the approval of nominees of cabinet secretary to the House, Madam Speaker, there is a valid reason for that, Madam Speaker. Look at what happens in the United States, Madam Speaker. If we approve these members just because we are part of the party that is forming government, Madam Speaker, we shall be doing injustice to Kenyans, Madam Speaker. You must rise up and stand up and defend the rights of Kenyans, Madam Speaker, whether it is favoring you or it's not favoring your party, Madam Speaker. So for that reason, Madam Speaker, I want to urge this House to agree with the minority that we reject those 3 nominees so that we can have other Kenyans nominated who are qualified, who can do the work for this country, Madam Speaker. When you are made a cabinet secretary, you're not going to serve your family. You're not going to serve your wife or your husband. You are going to serve the people of Kenya. And the people of Kenya gave their sovereignty to the members of parliament so that they can do on their behalf the vetting of the nominees, Madam Speaker. Honorable members, stand your grounds. Don't be intimidated. Whether you're in Kenya Kwanza, whether you're in Azimio, do the right thing for the people of Kenya, Madam Speaker. And we must stand up and defend the Kenyan people, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much. And have a good day. And let's make sure those 3...
Your time is up. The member for Naivasha, Jane Kihara.